From the John DeVito Broadcast Center, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another broadcast of Armchair Experts with Jim Leon and Rich Massaro on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network and Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich on Thursday, July the 19th, the year 2018. And now, here they are.
Perky as always.
Jim and Rich.
Are you talking about Bob Perky?
Bob Perky, right. We talked about him the last time.
Yeah, somehow his name came up. Well, you never know whose name's going to come up when we talk.
I know. I mean, geez, I start out looking at the paper here and finding out Manny Ikaza died.
Yeah, Manny.
He won the Belmont Stakes in 1964 on. Who did he win on 64? Quadrangle.
I don't. You probably bet that horse.
I was too young then.
You may have been too young, but you probably bet the horse anyway.
I was too young then.
When the heck?
And whose Triple Crown bid did he spoil?
Oh man, Northern Dancer.
Aha.
Yeah.
Did you know that, or did you just remember from reading the newspaper?
I just read the newspaper about an hour ago, so I should have remembered that.
Senior sack Gabe Rivera from the Pittsburgh Steelers died.
Yeah, well, I forgot that nickname, and I forgot that guy in that incident. Don't drink and drive.
Yeah, no kidding. Lessons for all of us.
Yeah.
So
from the sports pages or the obituaries, I should say.
Yeah, I've had enough things finding things in the obituaries lately.
Yeah, you know what? I saw a couple weeks ago, Sammy. There was a little thing in the notes column of the Sox. The Sox notes column in the Sun-Times that Sammy Esposito died, an old White Sox utility type of guy
from the 50s and early 60s.
Yeah.
How old was he?
80-something, 83 maybe, something like that.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty old. So there have been a few things I was tempted to text you about, but then I'm like, Yeah,
same thing. There were things I saw recently, and I thought, he'll have read it.
Yeah, that's true. I usually catch most of it. The only paper I don't read, Jim, is I really don't get a chance to read the Sunday paper, and I really don't care for the Sunday paper that much. I don't know if that makes any sense.
And I've been getting it. I've been getting the Tribune, the online edition, and I'm finding I'm not reading it every day.
Okay.
And then I just got the email the other day that my monthly bill is going up to $15.96 and it's like doubling.
Oh, really?
So I'm going, that's enough of that.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, well, that's a good time to cancel. Yeah.
No, John, I was going to say the clock is not.
Yeah, we didn't. Oh, man, we don't have a running clock here.
We don't have a running clock.
Man, John.
Yeah, geez.
Hey, Jim, what's new? I know you're not going to go to the reunion meeting on Friday. Not union, but reunion.
I may try to. I'll see.
Oh, now you're going to try to.
I'll see.
He's gonna see. That usually, in my world, that usually means you're not going.
That's right.
I'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I'll think about it. I'll see how much time. I'll see what kind of mood I'm in.
I'll see how much lint I have to pick out of my navel that night. You know.
I was going to put together a list.
I hope Mary's not listening to this.
We'll make sure she doesn't. This one. Based on an email I got last night, you're not in good standing.
Why? What happened?
Well, I reached out to Clara. I thought, like Rich was going to do some of these things.
She reached out to Claire?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Did she have any luck?
No, not yet.
Oh, I'll get her. So she should just, she should cool her jets and, man. Man, this woman is she retired or what?
Yeah, I believe she is.
No wonder she's she's
doing that, and you got the Finder of Lost Souls, Bill Caravia.
Yeah,
who's I think happy for something to do.
That's for sure.
I'm trying to stay out of the way as much as possible. Although I think I'm going to put together a list of the names we still don't have any information on. I'm going to see if I can get Mr. Zaflick our beloved station manager,
Mm-hmm.
to run it against the Ridgewood database.
Oh, good luck with
And-
that.
and-
Not
well,
not
he
so
helped-
much, not from Kevin's standpoint, but from the database standpoint.
No, the database standpoint I know is not good,
Yeah,
and he admits that.
yeah.
I mean, when he told me that Bob Lupo's brother, a Ridgewood Hall of Famer, is not even listed as attending the school.
Yeah, that's
The
that is a problem.
the early years were a problem.
Sure. Well, I mean, I guess that makes sense.
And it was like when I was trying to find what happened to John Hutton. John Hutton wasn't even listed as attending the school.
Ridgewood is not. First off, I don't think they're into their own history all that much.
No, obviously they haven't, considering what they did to the TV. Yes, that's right. I said that.
Well, you know, I remember, and I'm not going to say who told me this because it's not going to be accurate, but somebody had told me that this would have been prior to the new gym coming in, and it might have been way prior. This had maybe didn't even have anything to do with the new gym. But up in the, you remember where the PE leaders, we used to have an area that
Yeah.
it was like our
Yeah, the
lounge
loft.
or whatever.
The loft area, yeah.
So there was a sort of a storage
There
room
was-
right off of that.
Yeah.
And there were a bunch of filing cabinets with records, and I think they dealt with sports because that was obviously a sports area. That were just whole filing cabinets just dumped with records and whatnot in there. People who had participated, the records that they had set, and that's gone forever. So, yeah. So it's you know what I'm not going to get into this conversation. 'Cause
No, I
it has
know.
nothing to do with
I know
with what we're
I
talking
know.
about here.
It just gets depressing when you think about it, and when you think now that we confirmed what happened to that John Hutton isn't with us anymore. That's more than 10% of our class.
Oh, that's confirmed.
Yeah.
now? Okay.
Yeah, Rick Emmerich managed to track down John's wife
Okay.
and talk to her, and yes, he did die at the end of 2016. So there's 37 members of our class who have passed away.
Jim, I wanted to mention, on a little bit.
And by the way, Mary does not believe Linda Cookman has passed away.
Well, she has. So I
Well,
can.
she called, and there was a message that said Linda Cookman. She left a message. So
Yeah. Well, a lot of people don't change any of that stuff.
So-
So I'm hoping that I'm wrong, but that's what I can't remember where I heard this, but
I thought I had heard
correct.
it. I thought I had heard it too.
So I could do some digging, but at any rate, on
Well,
a brighter subject,
well,
I
enough-
just wanted to mention one
enough
thing
talk
before
about
we
death.
go into enough about that. We're starting a Ridgewood football alumni, and at this point, it's open to players, managers, coaches, and cheers and palms. I thought that would be a fun thing. I did that. I think Sam Palazzo and I have talked about this, and I'm sure we're not the only ones who ever had this idea, because there's a lot of guys who are interested in this, and the response has been good. I just posted it, I think, the first time yesterday, so already have about 30 responses, and I would imagine as the word gets out, a whole lot more. So that's a positive thing. I think what we were looking to do initially, if anybody's listening to this or hears this, we want to get a group of people together just for a social thing. We're talking about maybe a barbecue, or not a barbecue, but to grill, maybe at a Ridgewood football game this fall. To do that would be the initial thing.
Have you gotten a hold of Al Marks?
I've got Al's number. I'll get a hold of him right now.
I don't know how often he comes back to the area now.
Yeah, and he was coaching some football out in Arizona, so he may not even be in town at that point.
Yeah, he may not even be back here. I don't know if they still live here part of the year or not.
They do go back and forth.
Okay.
And he still comes in, and I'll give Al a call and see what he's up to. Tony Papone.
I was going to say, hey, Babon.
Tony Babone.
Hey, Babon.
So Tony would be another one. Got his number, so we can give him a call.
Is Mario Campanaro still alive?
I think he is, but I don't think he lives in the state. I think
Okay.
he's might be in Texas.
Okay.
So
Okay.
at any rate, but Jim, on to the actual what we actually do on the show.
I forgot. It's been so long.
What do we had like 3 weeks in
It's
between
been about
or
a month,
something?
I
Or
think,
maybe a
since
month.
Since we did this nonsense, and based on the construction and trying to get here this morning, it may be another month before we do this again.
I hear you.
Well, I had a thought in mind. Oh, all right. Football. Speaking of football, Bears camp is opening up.
I had an idea yesterday, Jim. I'm thinking. I have
Good, I
have
haven't been.
a friend named Jim Kelly who will say,
Yeah, Jim
you know,
Kelly.
the Bears. The Bears are, and I know a lot of
Bears.
us are optimistic about the Bears. But yesterday I was thinking about Jim, and then I started to think about the players that we have, and I was going to say, let's play a game. Jim, you throw out a name, and I'll give you a reaction on a Bears player, because as I went down the list of players that I thought of, I'm thinking, I could see why Jim doesn't think the Bears are going to be any better.
I look at this too, and my question that I was going to pose to you was, who on this team, or what group of players on this team, are you most looking forward to seeing?
Most looking forward to seeing. You're catching me off guard here, because I thought you were going to say something else. As I was thinking about this the other day, not that I'm looking specifically towards seeing this, but I thought to myself, Jim, if you went over every area, the most solid performer we have, and you correct me if I'm wrong, is Jordan Howard. He has been the most consistently productive guy
Yeah.
that I could think of on the team.
Yeah.
On the defensive side, Vic Fangio has done a really good job, and I guess you would say, who's the big guy, the big defensive lineman that is? They thought he should maybe go to the Pro Bowl last year. What's his? Hicks.
Hicks. Mm-hmm.
Akeem Hicks.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was thinking about Hicks, I'm thinking a good player. I think a solid player. Reason I say solid is he was with New Orleans, moved on to the Patriots, then came to the Bears. My impression of Akeem Hicks in the games I saw him is he's a guy who plays hard, but his conditioning comes into play towards the end of a game, which is it makes it problematic how strong he finishes a game out, and which I think is important, because defensively, if you're ahead, you got to finish out the game strong. But as I thought about the Bears players, I'd just give you, for instance, Mitch Trubisky. Obviously, he's talented, but unproven,
Right.
I'd say.
Tariq Cohen.
Tariq Cohen, I would say, sort of a bright spot, though. Tariq Cohen is a guy who can do some really good things for you. So he would be one of my more positive reactions. Kyle Long, excellent. If he's healthy, he's excellent. But he's coming off of 3 surgeries. Wasn't able to finish this year. I don't think he finished the year prior.
2 years.
2 years. Kyle Fuller might have had the strongest season of any defensive player on the Bears.
But remember,
yet
it was a contract year.
It was a contract year. The other thing is, if there was a doghouse in sports, he was definitely in it the prior year when they felt he was able to maybe play with a knee injury, and he felt differently. But I couldn't come up with many solid, yes, this is a solid player. Most of them were question marks. Most of them were inexperienced. Leonard Floyd looks like he could be a good player, but he's sat out good portions of the 2 seasons he's played because of injuries.
He's had injuries. I was going to bring up Leonard Floyd. If he could, there's ifs.
Too many ifs, and if they all, even, I was thinking Trey Burton. They've everybody seems to like Trey Burton, But in reality, he was a third string tight end.
Right.
Doesn't mean that he couldn't be good, but
Right.
he's basically, he's an open book. I mean, he hasn't had that much experience. He hasn't had that much playing time. So how do we know that he's a number one tight end for whatever team? Jim Kelly likes to say, well, are Robinson and White going to line up on either side of the field, and we'll have one full football player because they both have bad wheels?
Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing what Robinson looks like.
Well, if he's healthy,
he's healthy,
he's going to be a good player if he's healthy. But who knows about that?
I just glanced at
The 53-man roster from one of the geniuses.
No, I was looking at Rick Morrissey's column from yesterday. Bears players have to be in Bourbonnais on Thursday, and there hasn't been this much public anticipation for training camp since last year, or the year before that, or the year before that.
Yeah, Morrissey's bringing up a good point.
He really is. He said the starting quarterback could be a Michigan Avenue mannequin in a Bears jersey, and anticipation for camp would still be soaring. I know what you're going to say about the mannequin, but enough about Mike Glennon.
Yeah, there you go. You know what? I'm seriously. From the Bears' point of view, I think you had to go out, and if Trubisky was the guy, and you could throw other names that were in that draft out, but that's the guy that they wanted. I think Pace had to do that because you need, in today's NFL, I really think you need a top-of-the-line quarterback. Now, whether Trubisky's going to be that, he's got the talent to be that, but is he going to be that?
He's got the talent, and I don't. I think he's in a different system coaching-wise, quality of coaching.
For his position.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, there's obviously a much more offensive-oriented head coach.
Yeah, sure.
That I think is something that's been needed with this team.
I guess. I mean,
let's see what he can bring out of him.
Here's what I don't know how much. Trustman was supposed to be an offensive-minded coach, and I think he was.
He was.
What I always say, if you're talking about the Bears, or I'll throw in a team like the Packers, maybe the Buffalo Bills, where you're playing in some really iffy weather toward the end of the season, is an offense with all of today's bells and whistles. Really, how effective is it going to be? You remember, it was not last season, but the season before, when we had the two quarterbacks, Barkley and who was the other guy? And I think Barkley was the quarterback in this game. We played the 49ers late in the year at Soldier Field, and it was the game that Kaepernick, I think, threw for less than 10 yards.
Right.
But the conditions were horrible, and you're going to get days like that. So how effective is that type of offense going to be in those conditions? Because don't forget, on that day you had Kaepernick as quarterback, and the coach on the other side was the hot shot from Oregon State. What's his name? Kelly.
Chip Kelly. Was that?
Yeah, Chip Kelly that was his 1 year with the Niners.
Yeah, that was it.
So I go, and here's another thing. If you go back, 4 or 5 years now, when Kaepernick was in the Super Bowl or took the 49ers to the Super Bowl, because he was really, I think, the catalyst for that team, genuinely. And look at where he's at now, and I think where he's at now has nothing to do with his kneeling or anything else. I think it has to do with he's just totally flamed out as a quarterback.
Yeah.
So
I think so too.
There's a guy with a ton of talent, and look what happened to him. So,
yeah.
I'm not saying that's going to happen to Trubisky, but Trubisky's got a ton of talent. Doesn't mean that he's going to actually be an effective NFL quarterback. That remains to be seen.
It always remains to be seen because everybody will eventually catch up with you.
Yeah, I think that there's no doubt about it.
They'll eventually catch up with you, and unless you can find another way and something else in the trick bag.
Yeah.
Look at somebody like Who am I think? RG3. Oh my God, that's the
RG3, yeah.
next great thing. Well, he had injury issues,
Injury issues has got him down,
and he never, he had a couple of big years. Cam Newton wasn't exactly an MVP last year.
no, you're really, like you say, they adjust to you. You're at the one thing I hate to see in the NFL is a guy who uses his legs a lot as a quarterback, because it usually doesn't translate into long-lasting success.
No.
They're eventually going to nail you, and eventually you're going to slow down, and eventually you're not going to want to run anymore at all.
Yeah.
What the type of guy I like is a guy like Rodgers, who's very, they usually, he could elude them, but he doesn't rely on his legs for yardage. He relies on his legs to get away from the rush and then
Get away from the rush and
complete
do
the passes.
and get the pass off.
Yeah. Now,
Brady's the same way.
yeah, I mean, they use their legs for what I would consider really good reasons. So, I was going to say, I wonder how much Jordan Howard is going to be involved in this offense. I know they want to work with him as a receiver, out of the backfield a little bit more, but there may be some days where the offense they have in mind is not going to work, and they're going to have to rely
They're
on him
going to
to
have to
carry
go back
the
to
load.
that, and it's going to be interesting how they're going to use Cohen. Are they going to put him in the slot?
Well, Nagy says that I think what he's been saying is he doesn't want to start to rely on him as one thing or the other, and then over rely on him, in either way as a receiver or a runner, which I think is right, because I think back to when we first started to watch football, a guy like Lenny Moore, who was almost for that day a hybrid, because
It really was.
he was
yeah.
a running back, but the
was a
Colts
good
would
receiver,
split him
too.
out and have him as a
Yeah.
receiver. But you don't want to be effective. You don't want to have him do just a lot of one or a lot of the other. The other thing I was going to say, I think as a Bears fan, I'm always jazzed by the draft picks. They always seem like they're going to be guys with a lot of potential. But you start to look, and you're like, again, you don't know. A guy like James Daniels, who
I
they
was
think
going to
maybe
say
will
Roquan Daniels. I can accept,
Roquan Smith.
or Roquan Smith rather.
Yeah.
James Daniels. I kind of went, really?
Yeah, I mean, he's versatile, I guess, and comes from a good program where they do
Yeah.
supply some good offensive linemen.
Yeah.
But the guy whose name nobody can say, Igwa Benuik, whatever,
yeah.
Joel,
Iggy.
all of a sudden, here's a guy I never, I can't say I read every article about coming up to the draft, but I never heard this guy's name mentioned in the articles I read.
Yeah.
Now they draft him, it's like, oh my God, we got this guy. This is, this is a great guy. Well, if he was so great, how come you didn't mention him before?
And it was like the year before, the big tight end, Adam Shaheen.
Yeah,
Who's he?
yeah.
Oh, he's he went to the same school as Big Cat Williams.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, yeah. That's the one that always freaks me out a little bit, too. It's like when you draft the Penn State running back. Oh, well, none of them are any good. Well, how do you know? Until they get out there on the field. I mean, they have had a streak there where their running backs didn't have that much success, but, I could name some good ones who came from that school.
The New York Giants are relying on one.
Yeah, that's right.
He was the second pick in the draft.
Yeah, for sure.
Which I think surprised everyone, because I think a lot of people expected a quarterback, because Eli Manning is 38 years old.
Yeah, I guess they figure Eli still has some gas left in the tank, or maybe they weren't that. Here's the thing. I watched, and I'm not an expert. Okay, we're the armchair experts, but I'm not an expert. But I watched Sam Darnold. Okay, was he the first quarterback taken in the draft? I watched him play, and it was one game. I get, but I'm like, okay, this guy was he a sophomore or something? He didn't even go to his junior year.
I can't remember now.
But I'm like, okay, he looks good. But the way they were gushing over Darnold and Rosen, and I didn't see Rosen play, but maybe the Giants looked and said, you know what, we don't like any of these guys that much. Maybe next year's draft will be
very possible
better. I don't know who's in it.
I don't know. I have no idea who's in it next year, but it may be possible.
Yeah.
And Cleveland will be up there selecting another quarterback.
Yeah. Well, I look at when if you're going to play with Cleveland, I'm not sure. How would say if Tom Brady was just starting or Aaron Rodgers was just starting out, how good would they look with the guys they have around them with the Browns?
Yeah.
You don't know. I mean, you need some other people to help you out.
You need talent
around you.
Around you, and
Right.
the Browns haven't had that in
No, that's for
forever.
sure. No, they've been. Well, maybe part of it is because they keep drafting a quarterback, and they're not really, addressing maybe problems in the line or on the defense or whatever, receiving problems.
What was always the rule of thumb that if a quarterback, if you draft a quarterback and he fails, that sets you back about 5 years. I think that was like the old rule of thumb.
I don't know that I've heard that before, but that does make some sense because you're putting a lot of eggs in one basket. So, and that's a big basket to put them in.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it may be. I mean, that could be the rule of thumb, Jim. Look at Jim, John. John, are you with us, buddy? Look at John.
We were going to bring up Derrick Rose next, just to see if you were listening.
Did you see Derrick's picture was on the? Was it yesterday's paper? It was on the front page of the sports section, or it might have been the day before.
Oh, okay.
No. We're on. It might have been Monday.
Oh, okay. I just was watching John nodding off.
Yeah, I picked up the paper real quick and I go, "Why is Derrick? Don't tell me the Bulls are getting Derrick Rose back because his picture was on the front, but it was a picture of him shooting over Jabari Parker."
Ah,
so
actually, when I was driving here, the introductory press conference had just started
for what?
Jabari Parker.
Does Jabari Parker actually warrant an introductory press conference?
It was worth it just to introduce Sonny Parker.
To see, I saw Robert Smith, who was Parker's coach at Simeon.
Yeah.
Saying what a great thing it was for the city of Chicago that Jabari's back, and I'm like, these guys. I think there's so much media today that overstatement has become a habit. I mean,
well,
and I really are these people living in a dream world? I understand. Jabari Parker played on four state champions with Simeon every year that he was there.
I think so. Yeah.
Great accomplishment. I'm not trying to downplay the accomplishment, but how many people, even in the state of Illinois, really care about that?
Yeah.
It's not that many. So I think it becomes overblown in people's minds, especially the ones who are living it. And again, all my compliments, my congratulations. That's a great accomplishment, but it's not what you really think it is. I mean, especially for the people who lived it. It's not that big of a concern to a lot of us.
No, and his time at Duke, whatever it was, 2 years.
Was it 2? 1? I don't know.
One. Came into the league with great promise. Played 24 games, blew out his knee.
Yeah. Well,
and then came back and blew out the knee again.
And do you think, Jim, when you say that, what I think, and there's no way to prove this, so it's all just blah, blah, but here's a young guy, played, how many games do you play in college? 30, maybe 30-game season?
Well, it depends on how far you go through the tournament. You may play 34, 35, 38 games.
But now you go into the NBA and you're playing at a higher level. I would assume you're playing harder because the competition is tougher.
Competition is greater.
And does this put, for a young guy, does this put too much stress on? I'm not saying that this is for every guy, but does it put too much stress on your body? In this case, this guy who didn't have any knee problems that I knew of before now blows out his knee
Twice.
It's
interesting, and I'd love to take a look and see if see how the numbers relate. How many guys when they started talking earlier this year, talking about, or a few weeks ago near the end of the season?
Uh-oh. There goes the phone. It's okay.
It's a spam call. And
Yeah,
I
I just got one of those. I think we probably got the same number.
255.
No.
No,
that's not.
okay. I usually I'm not a very pleasant person when I do answer those.
I usually don't answer them at all.
No, I block them. But it would be interesting to look at because they were talking in the NBA about the dumping games and just to get a better draft pick or get higher, and resting players, and I think the commissioner would like to see more players rested, maybe at a home game, and
which
not
makes
on the
sense.
road.
Not on the road. Yeah.
Just because you're the attraction.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was also, I'd love to look at how many players who did not play every game in a particular season, how many players got a rest because of an injury or it was coach's decision, a coach's decision, DNP.
Yeah.
The players are on an average now in the league, what? I think I heard something like 6'7".
Yeah, okay.
How
I buy
much
that.
how much stress is being put on, with the knee injuries? How much stress with the up and down and being that tall? Is there an issue of stress on the knee? More of an issue of stress on the knee.
Well, I have to say, Jim, we know how many games are in an NBA season.
And
We know how many playoff games there are if you get into that.
You're going to play over 100 games.
But the other thing is, these guys usually, I would say to their credit, most basketball players seem to be basketball junkies. So they're playing in other venues where you don't see them. They're you have practice every day, which the coach could control. It doesn't have to be that strenuous, but they're playing. They may play. These guys are playing basketball probably nearly every day in some form. I would guess, they might take a month off maybe somewhere. But, the type of game that it is, it's stressful on your knees, your ankles, your back, regardless. So then throw in the height. Some of these guys have the weight because, as 6'7", you're probably not carrying 190 pounds. You're probably carrying 225 or something.
At least. And you wonder how much it's going to affect them down the road. And speaking of other Chicago legends, I guess the Bulls are talking about Jahlil Okafor.
You got to be kidding.
Nope.
It's funny you should say that because I was going to say, well, how would have drafting Jahlil Okafor number 1 would have worked for you now at this point in time? So now we're going to bring all of the. Oh my gosh!
We're going to bring the public.
Where did you hear that?
I saw it in the paper and I heard it discussed today. Let's take a station break, John.
You're listening to Armchair Experts from the John DeVito Broadcast Center on Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich and the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network on Thursday, July 19th, the year 2018, with Jim Leon and Rich Massaro. And this is Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich, Illinois. And now back to Armchair Experts with Jim and Rich.
Jahlil Okafor.
before we get into Jaleel, you know what? We haven't been on air really thank John and for all he does for us in a while. So just
Yeah.
wanted to mention, John, we
You're-
appreciate
you-
everything you do.
You the guy. You the
And
man.
did you know, Jim? John informed me. First off, I don't know. You might be ticked off about this, but he had a big bash up in Wisconsin this weekend, which you and I were not invited to, obviously. And
I was
but
in
he
Michigan.
celebrated.
I was in Michigan, so
He celebrated a big birthday,
the big one.
the big one.
The big one.
the big 8-0. Wow.
John, you don't look at
No, he does. Seriously, you know
John.
what?
You do not look 80.
Thank
What's-
you very much.
What's your secret, John?
Keep on working. Keep moving.
That's what we all need
Yeah.
need to do.
That's for sure.
Just like I told Rich before you came, I had a big remote broadcast I did out in Lombard yesterday. I had James Rhodey and Gabriel. We went out there to set up the equipment, and we did a big broadcast. And I keep myself busy between doing things here at Windy City Hometown Internet Network Studios here, and doing work around the house here in Norwich. And of course, I've got a lot of work that I do up in Wisconsin. And I just don't have time to sit down and think about anything but work.
What the heck are you doing right now?
Right now, this is probably...
That's why he was napping. That's why you were
No,
asleep.
no, no,
Come
no.
on, I saw you. I saw your head bobbing.
No, but I keep myself busy. I don't. You know, I had my Uncle Charlie told the family that when he retired from his job, he's going to sit in his rocking chair and die, and that's exactly what he did.
Yeah.
And I just don't believe in that. I mean, I like to keep active with radio broadcasting. I'm very active with the Chicago Fire Department, with the 511 Club, and here in Norwich, up in Elkhorn, and I just keep
Yeah, that's good.
I'm with you, Jen.
just keep
God
the-
bless.
Yeah, I kind of look at this, and you Thursday, the 19th, my mother-in-law is going to be 93.
Mhm.
I think about always. I'm always trying to do something. When I'm home and I'm doing nothing, then I get bored,
That's right.
and then I annoy Dana.
Also, talk about your mother-in-law being 93 tomorrow.
Yeah,
And
Thursday.
my best pal Kevin Zelfik will be 41 tomorrow.
Oh my
40.
goodness.
Who? Kevin Zafflick?
Yeah.
Kevin Zafflick?
He's got to be
Yeah.
older than that.
No,
41?
Yeah.
He's just a baby.
No
And-
way. He's
yes,
got to be.
yeah,
He's
no.
got to be 50 if he's
No,
a day.
no.
I think he's lying, Jen.
And Jim, like I was telling Rich, everybody that was up at my party up in Wisconsin Saturday, there was about 25 people up there. Everybody there except 3 people, their birthday is in July, and we're all involved in radio broadcasts. We're all involved in a microphone somewhere down the line.
Who's
So-
up there? Some names.
Okay, Kevin, and his mom and dad.
Okay.
Mike Besh, my landlord, whose birthday is in July.
Okay.
But he's not a broadcast,
No,
he's a
he's-
roofer.
Roof.
Okay, Ron Smolin.
Smolin. Sure.
Uh,
Ron Smolin's band.
Yeah, his birthday was last Sunday, and he's a band leader, but he's involved in a microphone.
Sure.
Dan Kane, who was my partner when I was with WJJG, he was up there with his wife, and his birthday was yesterday, the 17th. And Denny Farrell was up there, the guy that's on our station here, but his birthday is not in July. Fred Belcastro, his birthday
Okay.
was July the 8th.
All right.
And like I said, almost everybody, but 3 or 4 people were there at the party, but their birthday was not in July, but everybody else was, and everybody that was birthday in July is involved in a microphone other than Mike Besh.
I could see why we weren't invited. We're just like small potatoes.
We're just. Yeah. Well,
That's it.
I'll admit I was in Michigan, so
Oh, okay. So, Jim's. Jim's
I had an excuse.
He had an excuse. Okay.
But your birthday's not in July, though.
No,
so-
that's
okay.
right. Yeah, John. See, John he's wiggling his way out
He's
of it.
trying
already.
to find a way out of it. Yeah. Well, that's good. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday,
John.
John.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
And last night we did this remote broadcast, or it's a taping, not a live broadcast. It was a taping of Paranormal Radio out in Lombard. And so I do the opening introductions like I do with you. And after I got done talking, they all start singing happy birthday to me. And it floored me because I didn't know how in the heck anybody knew it was my birthday. But Bob Trisek,
Trisek knows. It's
Paranormal
Radio,
John.
John.
Yeah.
What the heck are you talking about?
It was very nice. I will say that I had a very nice 80th birthday. My sister did one heck of a great job cooking. Oh my God, that girl cooked the whole week. I mean, we had food, and it was just a beautiful day. The weather up there was beautiful, and it was just, I couldn't have asked for a better day.
Very good, John.
And then when I came home, Oscar upstairs had a real nice dinner for me Monday night. So
Congratulations,
Good.
buddy.
Good.
Many more.
I was blessed.
Good.
Yes.
Good. We had a nice trip up to Michigan. We spent some time in East Lansing, and saw The Lion King on
Yeah, you were
stage.
telling me you're going to go see
That was absolutely one of the most spectacular shows I've ever seen on
Yeah.
stage.
Yeah.
Incredible, right from the opening number. When you've got people coming on stage, you've got people coming through the audience, you've got people up in the light towers.
Yeah.
With stuff. It was incredible
Was
show.
it an indoor venue or outside?
Yeah, no, it was indoors. It was indoors. They have a great performing arts center on campus, the Wharton Center, and I think it seats about 22 or 2,300.
Nice.
And for a Thursday afternoon matinee, I maybe saw about a half a dozen seats near the top that were vacant.
Okay.
But it was just a spectacular show, and it's always good to just kind of hang out around campus and see what's going on, and then go back and spend a day at in Dana's hometown in Farmington, and it was Farmers Market Day, and hang out a little bit there and visit a friend and
Cool, man.
get caught up, and it was nice, and didn't want to come back. And now that I'm back, I don't want to do anything.
I thought that was normal.
And now I have to do things like, go spend the rest of my afternoon in the dungeon.
And what dungeon is that?
That's the architect.
Oh, you're going to the architect.
In the basement. In the basement, I refer to it as the dungeon. So
Okay.
I have to spend a little time with that.
All right. I knew you were dressed up for some reason.
I try to look
Or,
presentable.
you're looking
Actually,
presentable, I
put,
should say.
I bought some new jeans up there, and I didn't put them on today. I just got my old comfy jeans on. All right, so where were we? We were talking about Jaleel Okafor and the Bulls, and
Now, who did he end up with at the end of last year? Didn't he? He got traded, I thought.
yeah, but I can't remember.
But they almost had to beg whoever took him to take him, because I don't think that he was really a hot commodity on the trade market.
No, I know. It was also, I guess, Wendell Carter made quite a splash in the summer league.
I get a kick out of when you bring him up. I get a kick out of these the commentators, the experts. Basically the knock on it, without going into a long thing. Not athletic enough. I gotta say, there's a lot of guys in the NBA who can can dunk. Okay, obviously almost all of them can, and they're very athletic. A lot of guys run up and down the court well. A lot of guys do this, that, and the other thing well. Doesn't make any of them basketball players. This guy, I believe, is a basketball player. I think, and he's a solid citizen. So, he, what he's done or what he did in the summer league doesn't really surprise me at all. I think he's
very good defensively.
Yeah.
Blocks well.
Yep.
And I had to laugh. I think somebody already said that based on the outfit that he came in on draft night.
Thanks, John.
Based on the outfit he wore on draft night, and based on his performance in the summer league, they said he's already earned a nickname, Black Panther.
Yeah. I sort of thought it was cool, his outfit, and
Mom and Dad had the, same thing.
yeah. So, I think we got a solid guy there.
I think he's a solid ball player. It's all right. When I texted you when the Bulls matched the Kings offer for Levine, you weren't too thrilled with the idea of them matching his offer.
I'm glad you brought that up to my thoughts. I think really when I started to analyze my own thoughts is I guess I sort of resent the fact a guy who's not done much in the league, and I think I can back that up, feels that he should get a max contract. I don't like that thinking. And I think that was maybe the reason I reacted the way I did.
It's a logical point, and I think no matter what, even though they couldn't say it publicly, the Bulls were going to match anybody's offer to them.
Yeah,
I think they just wanted to see what the market was.
I think so too.
And they almost had to match it because what do you got otherwise?
No, I think they had to match it. I just I think it just gets a little crazy when a guy he basically has had, last year he played part of the year because he was rehabbing. I don't know if he played it all the year before or if he got hurt during the year.
I think he got hurt during the year.
And so I want to say he's probably had one full season, maybe two tops. And he was basically a bench guy, off the bench guy, and not like a guy who sat on the bench, but came off the bench. I think he did okay when he was with the Timberwolves, and but I don't think whatever he's done warrants a max contract. You're really paying for somebody's potential, which is not unheard of, obviously.
That's the draft.
That's the draft. But we've seen already seen this guy in the NBA. I don't know. I just have a little problem with that. The thing about the draft, though, too, Jim, is that I don't know. Is basketball the same as football, where they've basically said you could make so much as a rookie?
I believe so. I believe so.
You
have your contracts. You have your contract's value depending on whatever slot you're in.
I just I just didn't care for the fact that he was going for the max contract. I mean, if I was him, I'd probably do the same thing. I'd have to say that. Obviously you want to do that.
You're your product.
Yeah, for
sure. You are
sure.
your product, and you want to sell yourself.
But I'm not him, and from where I'm sitting, I'm trying to think about the Bulls and thinking about even the league in general. I just don't think it's healthy.
I thought it was interesting, and I didn't realize that until I heard a discussion on the radio today. I thought when LeBron signed with the Lakers, and whatever it was, $154 million.
Yeah, I don't know what he got.
And I thought, gee, that seems a little light for LeBron. I would have expected the first number to be 2 or 190 something.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, when you sign a new contract with your team, if you stay with that same team, there's a provision that you can actually get a $40 to $50 million kick up in your contract.
Okay.
And I didn't realize that until I heard today. Apparently, and I don't know if it was announced. I heard it discussed on the way in. That it hasn't been announced that the Spurs and the Raptors have got a deal with Kawhi Leonard going to the Raptors and DeMar DeRozan coming to the Spurs along with somebody else, and I can't think of his name.
I don't know.
Can't think of his name. But they mentioned that they said, well, Pop screwed Kawhi Leonard to get even with him.
Mm-hmm.
He said because that probably just cost him $40 to $50 million.
Oh, because he gets paid in Canadian dollars.
Well, besides that, if he renews, He's not going to. He's obviously he's got
okay.
1 year left on his
know.
contract, but he's not going to stay if he doesn't re-sign with them because he's already said I want to play. My career objective is I want to play for the Lakers.
Oh, okay.
Well, he just cost himself 40 to 50. Pop just cost him 40 to 50 million
I
dollars.
see what you're saying. Okay.
So.
Yeah. Okay.
Did you watch the All-Star game last night?
No.
Baseball All-Star game?
No.
I from the description, I didn't either, but from the description of it, it sounded like home run derby again.
I know.
I think
all
there
I
were
know
10
is,
home runs.
10 home. I know Contreras hit one and Bregman hit one for the other side. I didn't
Yeah.
really pay attention to anything
Interesting.
other than that.
Just keep in mind, Wilson Contreras hit a home run, his first at bat in the major leagues, his first pitch that he saw in the major leagues, and last night in his first at bat and the first pitch he saw in an All-Star game, he hit a home run.
And only one other player has done that.
Who won the game last night?
American League.
American League one.
Who else did that?
Terry Steinbach.
Terry Steinbach. Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So the catchers maybe because they're catchers, they might have a hint what they're going to see for that first pitch or that first at bat.
I think I saw something. He actually has. I looked at the Tribune article. Apparently, he faced this guy back in the minors.
It was Snell that he was.
Yeah. He said he faced him in the minors, and he said, I knew what was coming and I was ready for it.
By the way, did you see? They mentioned that the Cubs are in the market to get the reliever from. He was in the game last night. Is it Wall?
Yeah.
Or Hand? Brad Hand?
Yeah. Yeah, I heard that. And
I was sort of wondering about that.
I was kind of wondering. I kind of wondered about that, and
you know what my feeling is, Jim? I think the Cubs. First off, I think if they get any pitching, it'll be a starting pitcher.
they need the starter.
And Jimmy Cusack had an idea that I thought was a decent one because I don't think it would cost the Cubs a lot in players. But he said, what about Big Game James coming over? And he's pitched pretty well for the Sox. He's an innings eater. He's also, you know what? You go from a last place team to a first place team. A lot of times that'll revive a guy a little bit. And I said, Jimmy, that's a good
not
thought.
actually a bad idea. I'm just looking at quick numbers: 4-10, 4.43 ERA, 20 starts, appeared in 21 games, 126 innings pitched, innings eater.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, and that's what the Cubs need.
Yeah.
103 hits. No, wrong line. 111 hits. 70 runs, 62 of them earned. Gives you an idea about their defense. Walked only 15.
Yeah.
And struck it. Not a big strikeout pitcher. No, excuse me. Home runs 15. Walked 49. Strikeouts 52.
Mm-hmm.
All right. His whip is 1.27. But just to have the innings that can be the innings eater, because looking over on the other side, you got Lester who's pitched 111 innings, and Hendricks who's pitched 110. Quintana's only pitched 97 innings. Chatwood, 84 innings.
Well, I don't know that it's going to happen, but I thought it was an
It would be an interesting.
idea.
It would be an interesting. It would be an interesting deal.
Yeah.
It's interesting too. One of the things that I saw, and I mentioned this yesterday when we talked on the phone, that you talked about Joe and the way he uses his lineup.
Mm-hmm.
And everything, the way he handles his players. Saw something, and I can't remember who the player was, but leads the league or leads the majors in innings played, like over, 870 innings. And there's not even a Cub in the top 50.
That's really interesting stat.
Not even a Cub in the top 50. The one who's played the most innings is Baez, and he is 72nd.
Wow.
It gives you an idea of the depth
Yeah.
on that roster and how well he uses his players.
Yeah, I know that there would be people who would just take me to task for even comparing the two, but the more I see Joe Madden, and I can't say, I mean, I was too young and there wasn't enough coverage to really know that much about Stengel, Casey Stengel, but everything I've read about him, Joe Madden seems to be the most like Casey Stengel of anybody that I've had the opportunity to see at any length. And when you think about, again, the Yankees, of course, had the depth.
Sure.
They had the versatility,
Sure.
and I would be willing to bet that if anybody looked at those stats, you would find, other than guys that they leaned heavily on, that most of their players probably didn't have that many innings under their belt either.
Probably not. And it was kind of, made me start to think about some of these. Made me start to think about Stengel, because there is a Facebook group that lists that's called Vintage Baseball Photos, I believe is the name of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy who's been posting it was posting some of these pictures. He's not posting like baseball cards or action players, but he's posting pictures of players. His father either owned or managed the Stage Delicatessen in New York.
Okay.
And a lot of the players would come in there. And so he's got pictures of, him and Hank Bauer. There was
wow.
and some other players along the way. I'd have to go back and look, but it was the kind of player that Stengel liked because he was always versatile and he could use him in the situations that fit.
The interesting thing, I know there's always a lot of talk around the Cubs about who should lead off, and Joe will put Rizzo, and he's used Contreras, and he's used, I think, even Bryant from time to time. But
Hayward,
you realize when you talk about the Yankees, and I didn't realize this, I just read this recently, that Hank Bauer, who, and you know what, I don't know if anybody who listens to us could ever picture Hank Bauer, but he was an ex-Marine, sort of a tough guy. You don't picture, even though he was an outfielder.
He was a good manager, too. He had himself.
Good manager.
Didn't he win a pennant with the Orioles?
He might have, yeah.
Maybe we even won a World Series with the Orioles?
Possible, yeah. But you don't think of Hank Bauer as a speedster when you look at it. If you look at his baseball card, you look at it. But a lot of times, Hank Bauer was the leadoff guy for the Yankees.
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, and Hank.
I was thinking you were going to tell me somebody like Kubek or Bobby Richardson.
No. And if you really check, I was amazed. I always thought, because when I started to follow baseball, Hank Bauer was already out of his prime, and he was sort of at that point a journeyman player. I don't even know if he was a regular. If he was a regular, he wasn't doing anything outstanding. But if you look at his numbers with the Yankees, and it's considering he was right-handed in a stadium where it was not friendly to right-handers,
No.
You look at his stats, they're pretty impressive. Pretty impressive stats.
Yeah.
Especially with the power numbers.
Yeah.
So,
but the guy who posted these pictures, he brought back some memories when you're looking at these.
For sure.
Looking at these players from back in the day.
I think the thing that I still love the games. I don't care if you're talking about any of the big four. So baseball, basketball, football, hockey, love them all still. But the big difference is, and I don't begrudge any money, but as a fan, I think the money, in some respects, has hurt the games a lot, and that part of it I don't like.
It's true, and there was actually a discussion on the radio this morning about the fact that Mike Trout, probably the best player in the game right now, doesn't do much to market himself.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And Rob Manfred, the commissioner, basically said, well, he does what he wants to. He said we can't force him to do anything, but he said we certainly could help his brand if he wants to take more time. And there was somebody called in at that point, and then I had the score on this morning. Somebody called in and he was calling from Iowa City, and talked about the fact that he said, he said, you never hear much about Trout because he just does what he wants to.
Mm-hmm.
He's just got married, doesn't have any kids.
Yeah.
He's got time to do what he wants. But he said one of the great stories that he saw, and he said at one point, and I've been to a ball game in this city in Cedar Rapids, the Colonels. They're a Twins farm system team, but for years they were in the Angels system.
Okay.
And Trout played for them briefly, not very long. And he told the story about the bat boy there, who is apparently a young gentleman who's autistic or whatever, and he's been the bat boy for like 20 years.
Okay.
And his name is John something or other, but, he was always known as John.
Okay.
And he had come with his family to, I wish I could remember the event that they were talking about, but anyhow, it was a Major League Baseball event.
Okay.
And he wasn't doing anything to attract attention. He wasn't doing anything to attract attention to himself or anything else, but they were just standing there, and Trout came along and turned around and looked at him, and he said, "Oh my God, it's John." He says, "Come here, man, let me give you a hug." And he said, those are the moments that you wish you could see.
Yeah.
For a marketing standpoint, for somebody to look and say, this is cool.
On the subject of Mike Trout, I have a friend who, really follows baseball and knows the players better than I do at this point in time. And he really likes Mike Trout. And he was telling me one day, he said, Mickey Mantle, before he got hurt, was probably the fastest to first base or even around the bases. And they say that Trout is close to that. And he said the other thing about Trout is when he hits a ground ball, he hustles down that line.
Yeah.
And I said to this guy, I said, geez, I know who Mike Trout is. I've heard a lot about him. I don't think I've ever actually seen him play. So
you gotta wait for that one trip a year when the White Sox.
As soon as I said that, I'm someplace where there's a TV, and I couldn't hear the sound, so it was probably I was probably at the local tavern or something like that. They're not going to have the sound on for everything. And this guy hits a ground ball. The Angels are playing, and he's tearing down first base. They beat him by on a hard hit ground ball. They beat him by a hair. I'm like, who the heck was that? And I looked, and he turned his back, and you could see it was Trout.
Mm-hmm.
I said, man, this guy was right. He don't he doesn't waste any time getting down that base path. But it was just great to see and he's a superstar or a star player.
Yeah.
Just playing as hard as he did. And I said, you know what? After seeing that, hearing that, and then seeing that was actually so, I am because I hear Mike Trout's name. I'm like, okay, he's a good player. It actually made me a Trout fan. He marketed himself to me that way.
Just by the way he does the X during the game.
Mm-hmm.
There was an article today, and we're getting a little late. I don't want to get into it too much, but somebody also suggested in the Tribune some skills competition for the night before, other than just strictly.
The home run derby.
Other than just the home run derby.
What did they suggest, though?
They started about how, obviously base running.
Okay.
They even suggested a bat flip contest to see who could get the most style points.
Okay.
But they also talked about throwing accuracy. Pitcher to catcher to first to second to, to third, around the outfield and back.
Okay.
Accuracy and time. Just little things. Hitting a target in the outfield with a throw. Or hitting a target from the outfield in there.
Yeah.
Just something else to do something in the game that there, and I did see something, and I got a good laugh out of it. Concerned about people and the game getting, the fans of the fan base getting older and nobody coming in there. A minor league team decided to have something to appeal to the millennials, and they were going to have a millennial night. And just for the millennials, they were going to give them participation ribbons if they came to the ball game.
There you go. Hey, by the
and of course, the millennials did what they do really well. They complained.
Oh, there you go.
Took to Twitter immediately and complained.
Hey, I have to mention this because this guy gets some airtime with us from time to time. Jim Matthews. Jimmy Sunshine comes walking into the coffee shop at the library, Fanny's, and he says, did you see the third place game? And I'm like, what third place game are you talking about?
World Cup.
And he said, yeah, England versus whoever they played. Was it Belgium?
Belgium,
maybe?
I believe it was.
I go, they play a third place game?
I know.
He was very offended.
Yeah, Saturday we were having we were having breakfast in our hotel before we went out for the day, and the game was on down there, and there were people just enraptured over it. By the way, I got to give a plug for a business up in the East Lansing area. There is a place actually next to where we stayed. It used to be a regular little coffee shop restaurant. Now it's just donuts, sweet rolls, and coffee. And it's called Cops and Donuts. Apparently a cop retired and decided he wanted to open up a donut shop.
Cool. I like that.
And I saw pastries there, Rich. I saw a cinnamon roll there. I swear to God, it was big as both fists across.
Wow.
It was like, oh, my God. So if anybody ever gets up to the East Lansing area, stop at Cops and Donuts.
Cops and Donuts. That's easy enough to remember, too.
Yeah, man. I had a I guess it was like an eclair. I've never seen anything that big.
He didn't know if it was an eclair or the landing strip for the local airport.
It could have been that, too. There were track marks on it. It may have been. But anyhow, I'll give a plug. And anybody who goes up to East Lansing, go find Cops and Donuts. Now I'm hungry and I want to go up there.
Jim, before we go, I wanted to throw just one last thought out. We've talked in the past and said, wouldn't this be great if we could do this, maybe a couple hours a day, every day? In some other world. But I was thinking about this the other week.
We got to make some money on this.
And I'm thinking to myself, maybe not, because you realize how much. That's why there's so much stupid talk. Oh. Because there, overanalyzation of everything that's going on. Say just in Chicago, the Chicago sports scene. You end up starting to talk about stuff that's really stupid. You end up talking about stuff that you really don't even have a clue about, and all you do is make yourself sound stupid. So I thought, this is good. This is like perfect what we're doing. I
had to laugh because the last couple of days on the score, Terry Boers has come back to fill in. He was
going to fill in.
He was going to fill in. Today's the last day of the 3 with his original partner Dan McNeil. And it's been absolutely fun radio because they haven't been overanalyzing anything.
What have they been doing?
They've been talking about things that used to happen, that happened on the years ago. They talked about how their partnership got broken up, and they didn't know anything that was going to happen.
Okay.
I mean, Boers came to work. McNeil said he came to work, and he said, "You're going to work. Your new partner is going to be Dan." And he went, "Jiggets or Bernstein?" He goes, "We haven't decided yet." And they talked about the fact that there was resentment of that, and McNeil said, "I didn't talk to Mike North for a long time because," he said, "I felt that Mike North was the behind all this." But just to hear him talking about some of the stories and just some of the nonsense that he said that there was one story they told. There was one story they told about the time. I don't know how it was how it was. I was kind of doing something and half listening, but they talked about the time that Dave Dravecki. Remember Dave Dravecki?
Yeah.
He lost his whole arm
Yeah.
to
yeah.
cancer.
Yes. Yeah.
And they had to interview him, and there was something else going on. Things got backed up, and they told Judd Surratt, who worked in Chicago radio for a long time and is now the voice of the Boston Bruins.
Oh, he is. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Went out there last year. Was hired. Last year was his first year. And they said, "Well, you interview director Dravecki. He was their producer." He said, "You take him over in the studio and interview him." And he said, "What should I ask him?" And Boers, with quick response into his usual thing, says, "Why don't you ask him how he hails a cab when he's holding a briefcase?"
That's good. I like that. Yeah.
And of course, I never said anything.
You know what though? Those are the types of things that real people actually, it crosses your mind. It's not to be rude or cruel, but it's like, hey, it's being human.
And the little throwaway lines that would come out of him or with that when they were talking about the Minnesota North Stars one time, and Bernstein said, and he says, "And don't forget Jussi Jokinen," and Boris said, "Don't forget his brother Justa Jokinen."
Well, what's interesting, Jim, about this is how different people, as you're talking, how different people take different things. I remember one year when the Cubs had Willie Wilson, and they introduced the opening day lineup. Everybody came out of the dugout, and Willie Wilson decided that maybe to loosen things up, he was going to pretend like he tripped coming out, okay? Maybe just to relax everybody. Well, I heard about it. I'm like, okay, so what? My dad's like, well, that was stupid. I'm like, well, you know what? I mean, it just, I don't know if it was stupid or it was just something that the guy decided to do.
It was
nothing really, but it's just interesting how different people look at different things.
You always remember the opening day in St. Louis, the year when Harry was struck by a car, and he came walking out of the dugout to MC, and of course gets a tremendous hand, and he's got 2 crutches that he's walking with. And he stops, acknowledges the crowd, throws one crutch away, goes a little farther. The crowd is going berserk now. Throws the other crutch away. Does the introduction, and after that, Bob Gibson said to him, he says, "What's a bit with the crutches? I saw you before this started, and you were walking fine." He went, "Hey, Gibby, that's showbiz."
That's showbiz. Jim, just one other thing. When you talk about Harry getting hit by a car, I'm thinking we had an incident. We were bowl season ticket holders. This would have been in the early 80s. And we're leaving the stadium, and the traffic was moving pretty good because there wasn't that much traffic
in those days. Yeah.
And all of a sudden, this guy steps off the curb almost in front of our car. And we're all like, "Hey, you, and then we look at, "Hey, Harry, how you doing?" It was Harry, almost got hit by us. Oh, man.
Oh, all right. John, we're going to get out of here. Okay.
Yep.
All right, this was fun. We'll do this again. I don't know when, 2, 3 weeks. I don't know.
Okay.
We'll figure it out. And since we can't do this 2 hours a day because we'll run out of things to talk about really quick.
Yeah.
And we'll be sick of each other. Okay, that's it. Thanks for listening. We had some fun today. We'll catch you again soon. In the meantime, we are Taillights.
You have been listening to Armchair Experts from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on Thursday, July 19th, the year 2018, on Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norge and the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network with Jim Leon and Rich Massaro. This broadcast was directed by John DeVita, and our special thanks to radio station manager Kevin Zeflik of WRHS-FM Norwich and the executive producer of Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network, Mr. John Chikondo. This broadcast was pre-recorded on Wednesday, July 18th, the year 2018. Until next time, friends, please be safe and thanks for listening. And this is Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich, Illinois.